Throughout legends and throughout every country, there's always been stories and historical facts of giants living on the earth and retreating into the next level under the earth in big caverns and caves where they can fit. Now, giants were of all various sizes, and in the olden days, some people, the common people, were very, very simple. And for that reason, people were confused about what the giants were. And simply, the giants were just big people. They were not gods. However, people call them many things. And if you look at this picture now, that's a picture of a tree that was cut down, and this is a picture of some Stonehenge, which only giants did actually make. In the northern countries, you must remember, people used to believe that the earth was flat, for good reason. With mathematics and science and reason and rationale, they believed that the earth was flat, and plus they'd travel around. So the Norse people had giants in Iceland and the northern countries. Before Svalbard existed, there was giant people, Norse people. Not gods, just big people. And these giants were famous as called the Ice Giants. And at the very North Pole, there is an opening. If the world is flat, at the very North Pole, there is like a sinkhole. A giant one.
I'm not saying it is flat. I'm just saying this is for entertainment purposes only.
Where lights come out of it. And this light that comes out of the hole of the North Pole is the Aurora Borealis of green lights in the sky, which comes out from the hole. And if you go down that hole, if you were a giant, or if you had a rope, or if you went into the next level of Earth, down that North Pole hole, you would come to a place called Asgard. And there is a story, a historical account of the people who lived in Greenland just one day upped all of them, pretty much all of them, in boat.
Now it's been discovered, according to some people recently, a group of expedition people have travelled freelance. They took another route, which is to Antarctica, at the bottom of beyond Australia, at the bottom of where to the right of Australia, where Antarctica is. They found a passage there just recently, to Asgard. So that's another way to get there.
And they just disappeared, almost like thousands of people. Where did they go in one day? It's a historical account. But where did he go? Well, I'll tell you, they went down that hole. The hole in the North Pole, which leads you to another world under our Earth. And one of its entrances is the North Pole itself. It's a hole. Because when the tide goes out, that's when water comes out. But where does the tide go when the tide... You must remember, if all the seas of the Earth, the water is coming in with the tide, that means the water is going into the hole in the North Pole. And when the seas come out, and it's high tide in every country at the same time, that must mean that the water's coming out. So the water goes in and out from the sinkhole.
It's just a legend, but they do say there are easier ways to get there. If you go to Antarctica, there are passageways to other worlds, other countries, such as Asgard.
In the North Pole. And that's the story of the Norse giants, where they went and what they did. There's another historical account of Polyphemus. which was a cyclops that used to live, according to Homer, the Greek, on the island called Sicily. And there was a famous man, historical figure called Odysseus, and him and his men went to this Sicily island with giants living on it, and they came across this one-eyed giant cyclops, and he captured them and he put them in his cave, and they tried to escape, so they came up with a plan. Odysseus and his men came up with a plan to spear the giant through his one eye, which they did, which was really bad, but they had to escape. And then they hid silently, and he had many big sheep, quite big sheep in his cave, the giant, the cyclops. So in the morning, some other giants heard him screaming and asking for help, and they said, "What is it? Who's attacking you? Who's attacking you?" Because he was in the cave and there was a massive boulder that the men couldn't move. Only the giant cyclops could move this massive boulder, and all of Odysseus' men couldn't move it. So Odysseus had told the giant cyclops that his name wasn't Odysseus, his name was no one. So the giant cyclops said, when his friends came to them and said in the morning, "Who's attacking you? Who's attacking you?" He said, "No one's attacking me. No one's attacking me." You get it? So anyway, they hid under these giant sheep, and then he rolled away the giant boulder. And then when he took out the sheep out to graze, when the cyclops took the sheep out to graze, Odysseus and his men were hid under the sheep. And that's another true story.
Well, it's actually a story
another
by...
true thing, which is definitely true.
Well, it's a story, ancient story, by Homer Simpson. And it's a good movie with Kirk Douglas as well.
Is these Oni in Japan. I'm sure you've seen some Japanese giants, typically 14, 15 foot tall, which is not very tall for a giant, but these Japanese giants are still alive. They live in some of the islands in Japan, away from Tokyo, and they're still alive, and they're usually called Oni, which is Japanese giants, and they've usually got big trapezium muscles, and they look like massive sumos, but 15 foot tall, and usually they live on islands or underground in big caves, because the Earth is a cave system. If you study the cave Earth and the flat Earth, it's a system of caves big enough for...
I'm not saying the Earth is flat, or egg-shaped, or round, or anything. I'm not saying what shape it isn't, or is. This is just for entertainment purposes. I'm not going to verify this by going in a big ship, or an airplane, and discovering stuff for myself.
Basically another world under ours. The world is in levels. We have different levels of the Earth. We're on one level, then under us there's another sky and trees and things, and another level. And if you look at if you study the flat Earth map, there is another light that lights up their world, and it's a green light. And you can see the green light coming out from the hole in the North Pole. That's what we call the Aurora Borealis. So these Japanese ones are real. You can see them. And then there's there's a famous story recently, I think it was a few years ago, that some giants that live under the caves in the Solomon Islands, basically this person had a car, and his car was stuck on the road, and there was a landslide in the Solomon Islands a few years, and some massive bricks and stuff and boulders had fallen down, blocking the roads. And then in the morning, all the boulders would mysteriously moved away, the cars were moved away. That's because the locals said that giants live, friendly giants, you must remember these are friendly ones, friendly giants live under the caves in the Solomon Islands, and they came out at night to move the car and to clear the roads and just to remove the boulders. So, in the Bible, in Ezekiel 38:2, it mentions Gog and Magog, Now that's in the Bible. But in the Quran, these people are called Juj wa Majuj in Arabic. But in English, in the Bible, Ezekiel 38:2, they're called Gog and Magog. Now, famous people, such as the Welshman, the Honourable Blessed Geoffrey of Monmouth, in circa 1136, wrote in his History Regnum Britannia, he wrote that they were 12 cubits tall and living in Britain, which they were. Many people, thousands of people testified to this. And, 12 cubits tall, because in them days there was cubits. So 12 cubits tall equates to 18 feet tall. If anyone tells you that they've sent someone... If anyone tells you that they're 12 feet tall, that's not true. They're 12 cubits tall, not feet. They're 12 cubits tall, which is 18 feet tall. So Gog and Magog from the Bible, and which is Juj wa Majuj in the Quran, they're 18 feet tall. Now, where are you going to keep all these people? Well, the truth is, the Earth is not really a pyramid shape, but basically, we've got sky, and then we've got land, but underneath us, underneath our bedrock and caves, if you go under the pyramids of Giza, you'll see there's a passageway that takes you directly under the pyramid of Giza. There is a passageway under that pyramid which takes you down, 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 and it takes you down to another Earth with sky and trees, and it's massive. It's a big Earth, big enough to house millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people. You know, it's a big Earth, because the Earth...
That could be true, though I haven't personally gone under the pyramid at Giza to verify this. However, with new information, they're now saying that there are, according to ancient Japanese maps and ancient maps, there are more countries beyond Antarctica which are which would be ample big enough to support millions of people of different sizes living there quite comfortably, peaceably.
Earth is on levels, you see. There's levels of the Earth. That's why if you read the Bible or the Quran, there's many worlds, several worlds, because the Earth is on levels, you see. So, but people, some of the...
It's either on levels, could be, or with new information that we're getting, it's more likely that these many worlds are just extra countries which are now being discovered by private expeditions, legal private expeditions, which have gone beyond Antarctica. There are passageways that lead out of Antarctica, beyond the ice wall to other countries. And there is, just last month, some expeditions went there, didn't they? I believe that was on the news.
Other people worship the giants. If you look at the hieroglyphs in the Egypt, you can see there was 15 and 20 foot tall people in the hieroglyphs. You can see that there's many people about 6 foot tall in the hieroglyphs in Egypt, on the architecture, on the monoliths. And then you can see next to the 16 foot tall people, there's people that basically come up to other people's shins. There's people who only come up to other people's shins. Now, it was common in the olden days for giants and normal-sized people to live together. Often, that's how all the big monoliths were made. So they did an experiment. They took the world's strongest crane that we have nowadays, the biggest metal cranes made out of iron and metal that we have nowadays. Even the biggest cranes that make our skyscrapers nowadays, they can only lift a certain amount of weight. Now, you must remember, an average car is 2 tons of metal. But you must remember, if you think about it, most of the car, where you sit in the car and the passengers sit in the car, is just empty space. Now, imagine getting a car then where all the people sit and the driver sits and the passengers sit, imagine filling that in with concrete, how heavy that car would be. Right? I'm just giving you an idea of how heavy a stone would be of that size. Now, if you look at the little stones of, well, they're not little, but if you look at the ones of Britain, where Juge and Majuge, Gog and Magog come from Britain, like Stonehenge, if you look at them stones, even one of those stones, if you got all the so-called world's strongest men, like Eddie Hall and Bill Kazmai and John Paul Sigmarsson and so on and so forth, and I do believe John Paul Sigmarsson is the best one.
I am the strongest! I am the Viking! After all, he surely deserves the good things in life as the world's strongest man. I am the king!
Get them around just one of these stones at Stonehenge and ask them to lift it. If every world's strongest man was one of the stones at Stonehenge, and if they all took lift at the same time to lift the same stone, they would not budge it. They would not lift it, nor would they push it. So you would actually need a giant to lift them stones. And if you go around to other places in the world, there are bigger stones that are even more rectangular, which are much bigger than the Stonehenge stones. There's some stones which are 300 tons. Now, I've gone round and asked some people, and they said, you know what, even the biggest cranes that we have today that are made from iron and steel cranes that we have today, even the biggest ones that make our skyscrapers, they can't lift them stones. They can't lift one of those stones. So whatever has lifted or made them stones was strong.
And if you look at one of my other videos where I interviewed Dill, a man who grew up in Kenya and Uganda, in the 1800s, they used to build railways. The British used to build railways in Africa by hand. They didn't have cranes or anything. They used to build railways and canals all by hand.
Not strong like an elephant, not strong like a person, not strong like a killer whale that can jump clean out of the water. No, we're talking something much stronger. Much stronger. Stronger than steel. Stronger than our strongest cranes that we have that build skyscrapers. If you look at the skyscrapers that we have, and skyscrapers are a sign as well. If you look at the steel, the biggest steel, industrial steel cranes that we have that lift tons of weight, well, they can't lift some of the heaviest rectangular shaped stones that we find as monoliths all over the earth. So something...
Or did they have like special technology in the past? Where did this technology come from? Could it have come from beyond the ice wall?
Years ago and hundreds of years ago. And that has to be, is actually factually giants. Now, if anyone's ever seen, knows anything about the Illuminati and secret societies, well, they wanted to hide God, pretend God didn't exist, so they invented a school system to lie to you with geography, history and science, and teach you things that are not exactly true for a laugh, but, you know, for a reason as well, just to hide basic facts from people, to keep people as workers, to keep them in check as slaves, or just as minimum wage paid slaves. So...
But there's not wrong with working and earning minimum wage and receiving minimum wage. Not wrong with that, it's good, keep it up.
Now, according to the Bible, these Gog and Magog, they were the evil giants. And in the Quran, they're also called Juj and Majuj in Arabic. And there was a legend, and it was written in some historical books, which have now been removed. But you can still find these historical books, they're still old ones, like hundreds of years old historical books, telling you where they went and what happened. And you can see that if you research these books, that there was a man called Alexander, and he conquered more countries than you know. Oops. He conquered... Yeah, it wasn't Christopher Columbus that conquered America. No. There was a guy... There was many people that found America and Australia and Antarctica and other things and things beyond the Antarctica and the ice wall. They found these countries before Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus was just like a Freemason lie. He was conquered by Alexander the Great before that, and there was a man in Arabic called Zulkarnain. In English, many people say Alexander the Great. Well, yes. There was a man who went round the earth saying there's only one God above us, don't worship anything else, and he conquered many giants and many countries and many things. He conquered basically every country. They call him in the Quran Zulkarnain, or in English, Alexander the Great. You know, people said many things about him, but he was not gay. They lied. He's not gay. He was never gay. So... So yeah, the giants all over the country lived. They left massive stones and houses and things, skeletons and so on, architecture, and even some axes. So some axes, as big as a car, an axe. Imagine swinging that around. That's what they found. So basically, these giants are real. They are real, but the bad ones are Juj wa Majuj. Now, in the Islamic story, Jesus Christ, which is a prophet, servant of God, he's going to come down and rule the earth. Wait a minute. There's a church in Britain with statues of Gog and Magog, which is Juj wa Majuj, and there's a story in there as well in the church. It's all carved in stone. There's a story of there's these giants, and every November these giants, or replicas of these giants, are paraded around in the Mayor of London's festival. So these British giants statues in London were actually the real people that they're based upon, Gog and Magog, 18 foot tall. Now, they were captured in a war, because these giants fought Brutus in a war, historical war. It's well recorded by factual history, not what you get in schools, but factual history. Brutus fought these giants and he won, and he captured 2 of them, and he actually, with many thousands of people that witnessing this as witnesses, they actually were forced, these giants, 18 foot tall each, they were forced to work as porters in the royal palace, and their statues are now found in Guildhall. So in the book Legends of Alexander, in 1590, Spencer's Fairy Queen book, these are well noted as proof as historical things. But even in India, even in Hindu history, there was a man called Ravana, and he needed this giant called it. The giant used to sleep for 6 months at a time, apparently, and this giant was called Kalkarna, I think I'm saying it right. And this giant was so big that he needed 1,000 elephants to trample over him just to wake him up. You know, these were big. These are giants so big they could pick an elephant up with one hand. That's how big we're talking. Some of the giants got. So, but you must remember, there's another giant as well in the Bible as well. Not that big a giant, but yeah, I don't know how tall this one was, because people like to play him down on size. You know, atheists and that, and scientists, atheists, they like to pretend they weren't that tall. But the obvious one from the Bible is David and Goliath. David was a prophet. Prophet meaning someone who only worships the one God above, without an image. You know? That's what prophet is. The prophet tells the people there's only one God above to be worshipped. And Goliath was a person who did not accept the message of the prophets. He says, there's not one God, or I'm not going to worship this thing above us. Who can be bigger than me? Why should I worship this one God above me when I'm a giant and I'm so big? Anyway, David had a fight with him, and he got this stone and spun it around with this thing and hit.
It's just an old Bible story as well. It's in the Bible as well.
Goliath on the head and killed him. But you must remember, everyone wants to be a giant. Everyone says, I wish I was taller, bigger, stronger, more muscular. But at the end of the day, they're not that strong. Giants are physically the strongest creatures that exist. But
Possibly.
They're a lot stronger than elephants and other little weak animals. However, because it is reported in British history that Gog and Magog did rip oak trees, British oak trees, out of the ground with their hands and throw them and use them as weapons. If you go to some Muslim countries, they're not governed by the Smithsonian Institute. Therefore, they're allowed to show skeletons of 40-foot tall men in the Muslim museums in certain Muslim countries. But you must remember, if you've ever watched the Indiana Jones movie, I don't know if it's The Last Crusade or which one it is. Anyway, at the end of the movie, it shows you this big warehouse, and that's a real warehouse, where anything like the Ark of the Covenant or anything that is like the parts of the True Cross or whatever and giant fossils and that's where they keep them. The real artifacts, that's where they keep them. And if anyone ever finds a giant skull, say a skull as big as a car, or a skull as big as, I don't know, a 6-foot tall skull, or a 40 or 20-foot tall skeleton.
If you find any skeleton in the ground, you don't tell the government, because the government will just take it away. If you see a Bigfoot or Sasquatch, you don't tell the government. They'll tell you that you saw a raccoon or a deer or something.
Man, if they find it, and which are often found actually, if you do digging works, if you're a builder and you dig up the roads, giant skeletons of humans are often found, but you never find skeletons of dinosaurs. So maybe dinosaurs are a lie, and in reality it's a cover-up to hide the fact that giants are and were alive, and still are alive, but they live underground. If you study that much, but if you believe in the school system, that's
because if you ask the people who run the British History Museum in London, back in Britain, they will tell you, it's on record, they will tell you that every single dinosaur skeleton that they have in the British History Museum is not real bone, it's not real skeleton for any dinosaur. And the reason they give is because they say, oh well, dinosaur bones are too precious and we can't put the real dinosaur bones on display because they might break, so we use fake ones in the museum on display. So, did dinosaurs exist, or are they just in the movies?
That's just close-minded. That's just, school is the school system in some democracy countries. The school system was actually made by
Freemasons. Click on the thumbs up like button. Yeah, if you like this stuff, even if you think it is nonsense, that's fine. Just please, just do like it. Do click the like button, because that's just something to algorithms. So do like it at least. Come on, it's not so much effort for you.
Way of thinking, one way of geography, one way of science, one way of a uniformed way of so-called facts. That school system was made by the Freemasons and by the Illuminati to trick people into believing stuff that is just factual. Yeah, so someone just interrupted me, and I've just deleted something. I can't remember what was going on.
What most people consider facts are usually just opinions. For example, I could say I'm handsome. Well, that's my opinion. But a lot of things that people consider fact can just be opinions.
I say, but anyway, there was this in the Bible. There's Gog, Magog, and in the Quran that is Juj or Majuj. And according to these historical books of accurate history, that is from from different centuries in 1590, from Legends of Alexander by Spencer's Fairy Queen in 1590, he mentions these giants and Alexander the Great going around and conquering them and conquering the small and big people. Alexander the Great went around. He wasn't gay, that's a lie. He in the Quran, there's a man called Zulkarnain. He went round And before Christopher Columbus didn't conquer America, didn't find it. No, that's just a lie of the Freemasons and a lie of the people. Not Freemasons in particular, really, but a lie of the Illuminati. Let's say Illuminati. Just a lie of secret societies who want to lie to you and teach you a fake history.
All secret societies don't actually worship the devil. They want you to think they worship the devil, so you won't join those secret societies, so you won't learn what they really teach. What they really teach in all secret societies is a thing called the law of attraction. It's a way of using visualizations and energies and feelings to possibly be, do, and have more things in this life.
By sending you to school, teaching you fake science by sending you to school, teaching you fake things by sending you to school. I'm not saying don't go to school, I'm just saying if you go to school and you're a child, you wouldn't know anything different, would you? Because you're a child, what do you know? So if you've been taught all your life from school, you must remember school is a Illuminati system in order to teach you falsehood. Well, there's nothing wrong with it, but just know that's what it is. Now, in the Quran, in Islam, there's a story that Jesus Christ is going to come back and he's a prophet, servant to God, because all the prophets said only worship the one God without an image that is above us. But some people said, nah, we want to worship other things, and we don't believe in one God. We can't have that. We just don't want it. So anyway, Jesus Christ is going to come back according to the Islamic story, and then these giants, Juju or Majuju, are going to come out near the end of time, and that's the story of the giants. We'll tell some more stories about this in other episodes. Please subscribe and
because it's interesting. Alright then. Well, now, yeah, do subscribe. Thanks for subscribing, and like, comment, and listen to this, because how you go to sleep, in the way you go to sleep, if you sleep in a good mood, it could improve your life.
Ooh, I like that. I'm happy.
It's good to be a member of Club. You can join Global Information Network Club.
Who is talking of going to Barbados? You have gone to Barbados and you went first class. Like they sleep in the assumption that they are now what they would like to be. Realize it. If night after night they sleep in the assumption that they are now what they would like to be.
Keep reading books, listening to audios, giving recognition. It's good to be a member of a club. If you want to know more about Global Information Network, we don't have to agree on everything. We can agree to disagree. That's fine, but we can get along. Everything in life. If you want to know more about what the Global Information Network is, a secret society that's for you to join, you can do it. Remember, there's nothing wrong with being kind to people in this world and having what you want, having nice things. Nothing wrong with it, because you're worthy to work. You're worthy of working and receiving money, and you're good at it.